The reality is that every ministry initiative that we planned, it seemed like he was always hesitant. And when I found out, because in New Life Church I was able to find out and was given that list regularly, this person was not giving. $5 a week they were giving, but they were not giving of time, talent, and treasure in the way that I think of a leader. And that just made it click about, oh, this person's kind of hesitant because maybe we moved them too soon into this leadership role. Once again, they're not bad people. But if you see this as a sign of maturity, if you see this as a sign of Christian stewardship, then I think leaders need to know and be sensitive to those signs. At the same time, in terms of budgets, I'm one that say budgets don't guide. Budgets guide, but they don't determine ministry. So we always had this idea that if there's a good idea, we don't wait for another year or budget cycle to incorporate that. We always tried in some ways to reflect that because, once again, I don't want the finances to be the cap of ministry. I want them to serve the ministry. They do come together in a budget, so I don't believe that budgets are not important. I just believe that you need to be always recognizing that they're in conversation with what the ministry is doing. Number 16 is bad facts lead to bad policies. You're going to have at some point someone come up to you and say, what are you going to do about this? Because this happened. And it's going to be a bad thing that happened. I'm not going to try to give too many examples because maybe right now you're already thinking about that. But here's what I do know. When I stepped back and said that was a bad fact that happened, a youth leader who was outdoors with 8 kids and it poured rain and the doors of the church were locked and he didn't have keys. But rather than have a policy about who needs keys and who doesn't need keys or how we, sign off or who has what phone numbers, just know that that wasn't the way it's supposed to happen. The other thing that's related to this, and that's the material underneath the bad facts lead to bad policies, I believe as a leader that there are tensions to navigate and they're always going to be present versus problems to be solved. But when you treat everything as a problem to be solved, you kind of reduce things in a way that tries to create some calm but can actually cause chaos. Let me give you this kind of reality. Speak the truth in love. You all know people who do all truth and people who do all love. You need to have them together. At New Life Church, we wanted people to very much come in and be really easy to step in. But in terms of leadership, it was a step up. Kind of what you're doing today. You're stepping up. We don't ask people to be leaders before they're ready to be leaders. So if there was a situation, I know, here's the tension though. How do you know when a person's ready to step up? That's a tension to navigate, not a problem to be solved. At New Life Church, we wanted to be, focused on people walking in through the doors, and also we wanted to be focused on people who've been here for a while. That's the tension between outreach and discipleship, which, by the way, to me, is the tension always to navigate. It's not about solving this. Well, it's actually got to be both. So there's many, many situations in church that I just invite you, if you're in the moment, to think, is this a problem to solve, or is this a tension to continue to navigate? Number 17 was just really, maybe you have, once again, your own kind of insights about your life that you distill down to different things. Here's one that I'm working on. It's one you've probably heard in different ways, but it helps me to kind of put in real quick phrasing for people and for me. If you want to have traction, you need friction. If you want to get somewhere, you need friction. So when people come up to me and tell me, for example, at Calvin Summary that they're not quite sure about that, I go, that's fine. Friction is going to help us to get traction to move forward. I don't expect everybody to be at the same time. For example, New Life, CTS, I still do that. Calvin Seminary, one of the things that we just started after 136 years was our own distance Master of Divinity. It's the degree that John got, I got, Daryl got, and it's the main pastoring kind of degree. And you had to come to Grand Rapids to get it for so many years, because that's how you did training. Now, we're in a season where we do this by distance, meaning that it's not a 3-year program, but it is a 5-year program. You can live and work and minister where you are, and then you still have the blessings of getting a Calvin Seminary opportunity. So how do you manage this view where you have all learning residential, but now you're doing online? Well, we're saying you got to do this in a cohort, similar to like what you have here, small groups. You have to be mentored. You also, and actually this is a requirement for the degree, you have to come 8 days, twice a year to Grand Rapids and sit in a room with people and faculty and kind of just be physically present. Because if you want to influence the room, you got to actually be in the room. But then online, you could go to this cyber world and room, and you'll have a deeper connection because you've been physically present. Now, do I think that some students are going to prosper in one way and some students in another? Absolutely. And hopefully help students discern where they should be, if it's this one or this one. I don't want to collapse it all to one. I don't want to have it just the other. But I think these two are going to be in combination together and talk together. And so that's one of the tensions, for example. Should you just do all education by being present with people? Maybe, maybe not. It depends. And so rather than try to solve that tension, we're going to live with it. And I think the church is going to be served by having both options available. That's just an example. Questions about the axioms or the other material that we've had?
That's how good of a job you did.
Pardon?
That's how good of a job you did.
Okay.
We all understand.
Well, that's one way to read it. That's fine. Anybody have an axiom they wanted to throw out there?
In my dreams, I'm a Kenyan, and have you seen the size of my feet? I don't do marathons.
Okay.
That relates to your living in the tension. For me, a big one is both and versus either or.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think congregants and many people, they want an either or.
Yeah.
A black or a white, and I think it can be both and oftentimes.
Yeah. Great, Harold. So yeah, so if you get to that either or choice, maybe it's helpful to just even go have this axiom in mind, think both and rather than either or. And where does that get you? Absolutely. I think that people, and this is where I want to, another phrase I use related to that, it says, are you comfortable with gray? People like black, people like white, they like to kind of have that clarity, but we're living actually in a culture where there's this, and I know the church needs to be a prophetic witness, but I think there is gray that we need to acknowledge. Well, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Well,
Thank you.